hello, and welcome to Raise Your Vibes right here on KP Media TV. I'm your host, Athena Bahri, Reiki Master, author of award-winning book Raise Your Vibes, and creator of Crystal Reiki Healer, bringing you spiritual education, meditations, the gift of Reiki, and inspirational guests from around the world to help guide you on your journey to live happier and healthier. Thank you for tuning in. It is such a gift to be sharing energy with you here on KP Media TV. Today's show is sponsored by Westwood Clinic of West Los Angeles, California, where wellness is found with compassion, chiropractic care, and healing tools of the highest technology for your physical pain relief and healing. They are a certified MLS laser therapy facility helping thousands of patients reclaim their health and overcome the limitations of living with pain. Find out more about this amazing healing space at westwoodclinic.com. And now we have a very special guest joining us today. Please welcome Jason Zuk. Jason is an attorney licensed to practice law in Florida, Texas, Missouri, Alabama, and New Jersey, but he is also a psychic medium and has been working with clients since 2004, providing clients with a chance to gain insight on matters within their life. He is also the creator of the Social Psychic Podcast Show and creator of Psychic Visions Podcast. Jason, thank you so much for joining us here on Raise Your Vibes. I'm so grateful to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for letting me come on the show today. I'm so excited to share my time with you. And every moment we spend and we talk, it's always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure to have you on. Yes, I actually started on your podcast back in the day. That was amazing. And now here we are. I love how things just come full circle.
Exactly.
Yes. I love it. I love it. So, you know, when I did your podcast, I was coming on for Raise Your Vibes. But, you know, since then, I've learned so much about what you're doing, actually. And what I didn't know at the time is you yourself are actually a cancer survivor.
Yes.
So this is quite a journey. You've got, I feel like you have so much going on here. You go from practicing law into psychic mediumship, dealing with healing from something like cancer. How did this diagnosis impact your spiritual journey?
It transformed me. I'm thinking as I talk to you, I think of the butterfly behind you, because I feel like when I had my cancer, it brought me to reality and it made me realize that all our time is precious. Kind of like what we all have gone through collectively as a society in the last 2 to 3 years with the pandemic, that our time is valuable and that you've got to do what matters most now. You can't put it off. You can't delay. And I made some pretty big transformations in my life just in over time. I lost 50 pounds. I ended a bad business relationship I was in, ended a toxic relationship, changed up some friends, met Megan, Kane.
Yes.
Like she's around the same time. All that stuff comes together. And then the podcasting happened. I self-diagnosed myself with cancer 6 months before I had it. I was looking at a full length window under my office here in Tampa. And I said, wouldn't it be weird if I had cancer and didn't know it? And it was the strangest message I got from my body intuitively when I was looking at my reflection in the mirror. But I knew from that point that something was up, and I told some family members and friends.
Wow.
And then 6 months later, I went in for a CAT scan for my diverticulitis because I was a chronic diverticulitis sufferer. And I finally had that surgery after the cancer surgery. But they told me that there was a stage 1 cancer on my right kidney. So I opted to do what's called a cryoblast. And it froze the kidney off my kidney. It froze the tumor off my kidney. I walked out. That's what I meant to say. I walked out of the hospital that day. Like I had the procedure done at 9 a.m. for 4 hours. I woke up. They monitored me, and then I was able to walk out of the hospital, even though I was weak.
Amazing.
And the cancer was done after that. But interestingly enough, I held a strong face for my family and close friends for the 3 months I dealt with that. And then when the doctor called to tell me that my cancer was gone, then like my emotions just like flooded. And I had this catharsis that I've never described since, but it was powerful. So it helped a lot with my spiritual journey. It put a lot of things in context in my life.
That's amazing. So now you had this moment of like, oh my gosh, what if I had this? Were you already, did you already know that you were a psychic medium? Or did all of this kind of happen? You did. Okay. So you learned to trust the signs, right? Trust the 100%. Message.
I actually had a visitation when I was under anesthesia. I had a right after my cancer surgery, I had a colonoscopy for my second surgery. And while I was under, my grandfather visited me who is my like end all be all. I go by Jason Zuk, the social psychic, because my real name is Ciafalo, but I use Zuk in honor of my grandfather. He's Edward Zukovich. So he came to me the night he died. I always had a premonition that when he dies, I'd be by myself with no one to console me. Well, my grandfather raised me because I came from a single parent family. And my grandmother and grandfather were like my surrogate parents. And so my grandfather moved to Florida. Hence, I came to Tampa to spend time with him during my college years. And I always had this nagging feeling that when he crosses over, I would be by myself with no one to console me. Well, the crazy thing is he had a stroke in 2004, fast forward 7 years after college. And I was by myself in Wisconsin covering a deposition. And so my mom called to tell me at 8:07 at night, your grandfather passed. I was like, oh, this is the guy who raised me. I was like 28. I sank on the bed. The lights were off. I hung up with my mom. And all of a sudden, it was like an Unsolved Mysteries. You'll appreciate this. Unsolved Mysteries episode. I feel like I was living one myself. Orbs of light came into the room and it became bright as day. And my grandfather spoke to me telepathically and he said, son, I love you. Don't worry about anything. Don't cry for me. I love you. Go get some food. And I'm always going to be with you.
Go get some food. That is so classic grandparent, isn't it?
100%. And I went to the Panera Bread, and my first mediumship experience happened that night when my best friend Tracy from high school called me from New Jersey to ask me how my grandfather was doing. And I started picking up on her, like doubting when I told her he came through that night. So that was like my first intuitive thing. And then I said, you know, just because you doubt what I'm telling you, that you don't believe my grandfather is communicating with me, I go, what about your grandmother? What if she could come through to you? And she goes, well, she's been dead 6 months. That's not possible. And all of a sudden her grandmother came through specifically and told her something that only her and her grandmother knew for 7 years of their life, that they did a tucking in at night kind of process they did. Don't let the bed bugs bite, kiss you on the forehead, that kind of thing. And she dropped the phone crying. And so I knew right then and there I slept with the lights on for 10 years because I didn't know what to make of this. And I was like, what am I doing? And then I had the law practice thing going on, where I practiced in southern states like Mississippi, Alabama and stuff. And I knew as a lawyer, I had to be careful. I couldn't be like openly like I am now about being a medium. But divine timing, everything happens in its own time.
Yes, everything does happen in divine timing. And yeah, going from something like law to psychic mediumship, I mean, law is kind of like, no, if you can't see it, like scientist, if you can't see it, you can't prove it, it doesn't exist. Or a lawyer, I guess, if we can't argue it, right? Something like this. But
the evidence is there, forget it.
Amazing. The evidence is there. And I'm seeing this more and more, actually, with more people experiencing this and more people having these visions. Now, for those that, you know, are kind of doubting themselves, or they, you know, like we kind of did ourselves, like we don't know what's going on. And am I crazy? Am I losing it? I slept with the lights on too, myself. So it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I was like, oh my God, I was terrified. And then I would demand, you know, in the moment after I had seen this vision of this woman, I had this, you know, I would demand that she leave my space. You're not allowed in my room. And interestingly, I lived with my grandmother at the same time. So a lot of synchronicities,
right?
But for those that are starting, you know, you have now more experience even with this. How would you guide them to, you know, not be scared of these visions or experiences, but to be more open to them? How would you kind of,
you know, I'll use my mom as an example. She's 75 and she's always been psychic herself her whole life, but she always doubted it. And it was when we were on a plane together a couple of years ago before COVID, that I was reading someone in between us on a JetBlue's airline, you know, JetBlue. And my mom heard everything I picked up on the person that was sharing our seating. And my mom sat on the other side of the aisle. And my mom said afterwards, everything you told her, I picked up on independently. So now my mom trusts what she gets. And I would tell the audience that if you doubt what's coming through, erase the doubt, have confidence in yourself, and trust what's coming through is for a reason. It's reassurance, it's clarity, it's about unconditional love, it's about connecting to the larger fabric of the universe that we're all a part of. Like all those messages I get repeatedly in the stuff I get to do in between doing a show or having readings on a regular basis, like, or just interacting with spiritual people like yourself or others. Like people need to meditate. They need to get back with their roots and be spiritual and pray. And I do that all the time because I guess I had to do that for 2 years, being alone a lot, but it reconnects us and we ground ourselves. And like crystals are important to me. I got activated with crystals on a trip to Sedona, Arizona I took in 2017. So like all those things help with building intuition. So the confidence, because the messages come through to everybody. But if you're like your own filter and you ignore or you discount or you discredit or you don't believe, then you're not gonna grow those skills.
Absolutely. No, I so agree with that. But then others will be like, well, but how do I develop this? And, I'll always say, well, start
Study
asking,
and
start
study.
talking to them,
Be
just
curious,
start.
right? Study. And
Right. Study, read, get all the information that you can. And not everybody likes to read. So there's always podcasts. You can check out Jason's podcast, right? The Social Psychic. I'm sure you
yes.
have loads on there about people connecting and helping them on their journey. And I always say, with the angels, like just, start talking to them. They're there. They want to help you. They're trying to reach out to you.
You know what?
Um,
I'm sorry,
yes.
Ruthie. I get so
Yeah. Yeah.
excited.
Please
Sometimes I'll just speak and I don't mean
do
to.
it.
Synchronicity. We talked about that earlier. I think that is the breadcrumbs that you can communicate with your loved ones if you want to seek mediumship. What I mean by that is if you're thinking about your grandmother and you're sad because it's the anniversary of her birthday and you're sad all day, your grandmother doesn't want you to be sad. She wants you to dance around the room, be happy, celebrate, raise your vibe. That's important. And so if you're able to understand that and you look at the time and it's 333 444 5555, you'll see the synchronicities. Or like my grandfather leaves me pennies, or I had someone tell me yesterday that someone left them dimes. Like all those variables you can pay attention to, and don't discount it. Don't discount the song that pops in your head that you knew you shared with your grandfather, or a memory that pops in your head, and then you put the TV on and a Western comes on. You're like, well, that's synchronistic. My grandfather used to watch Westerns all the time. Well, your grandfather's communicating with you.
Yes. Trying to
Spiritual
tell you
breadcrumbs.
he's there. Spiritual
Like
breadcrumbs. I
spiritual
love
Morse code.
that.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
even sometimes it's like a whiff, like a smell, like
Yes.
you'll have like a scent come in and it takes you back to that moment. There are so many of these signs, and yes, we kind of get in our own way, right? Where we kind of like we block it out, like no, this
Sure.
can't be real, and I'm struggling. So you do psychic readings for people as
Yes.
well, right? When you're
Yeah,
doing this for them, I know I love it. From law to psychic readings, it's so
I've
amazing.
kept them so separate all this time, and now finally I'm embarking more on my spiritual side. I'm still doing the law stuff, but I'm paying more attention to the podcasting side with my new show with Megan, Psychic Visions, or just enjoying the readings. I also studied life coaching. I'm just trying to expand myself on my own
Yeah,
journey, as you would want to say, and doing a bunch of podcast episodes. I love this stuff. This
I
is
love it.
why
Yeah.
this is our time to enjoy these moments, and I feel like this is like the cusp of what we're doing, is having these interviews to share our knowledge with everyone else in the audience who can become inspired by something we say, an example we give, or maybe there's someone else that thinks of pennies for their grandfather. You know what I mean? So all that stuff is interconnected.
Yes, absolutely. And even if we can just reach that one person that needs to hear that message, it makes it all worth it. That's the point, to kind of shed light on, or shine a flashlight on, that darkness that they were in and couldn't see forward. So speaking of, when you're doing these readings for people, now, you're a psychic medium. So do you always, or does it sometimes happen where you're working with a client and you'll have one of their relatives come through? And
Interesting
how
question.
how would that work for you and for
So
the person?
most of the time I do readings with people that the people come through on the other side and ring a bell to me and I pick up on it. But there are certain times when that person on the other side that they're looking for doesn't come through right away for whatever reason. This is nature. We can't explain natural things, right? Like if I said anyone in the audience is listening to us, if I said you're breathing right now, that's nature. You're automatically breathing and not paying attention to your breath unless I say, pay attention to your breath right now. Well, the same thing is with spirituality. And so it's a natural process. So if someone comes to me for a reading, especially with mediumship, I will say whoever's going to come through comes through, and I can't control that. I'm an instrument. What you get as the message is meant for you to interpret. But some people over the years, and I'm lucky it's only a handful, but there have been people who come with a chip on their shoulder, and they don't. But I give them healing energy too, and I mean, I feel like everything we do, the bigger purpose spiritually is if you can help heal other people with confidence and being able to just tell someone you're going to be all right. I know like when people come on for a reading with me, I can just tell the energy sometimes, and I got to be at my optimum. When I was sick with COVID, I wasn't giving readings for a few weeks. And people don't think of that. They think when you're a medium, you're always on. And I'm like, I'm not always on. I actually give myself boundaries now. When I first started, I was always on. But now I protect my own energy. And I realize that if I give 6 readings in a day, that's kind of a lot on my Saturday when I worked all week. So I balance everything.
Yes, 100% and 100% on that. I'm setting boundaries. And I love you bring this up because, setting boundaries for our energy, both as for anyone on both sides of it, you have, whether you're a doctor or you're a nurse or you're a psychic or you're a healer or a mother or a father, all of these, we give so much of ourselves, and very often, forget we need to refill that cup too, because if we don't refill that cup, there's like nothing left of us to give. So setting those, yes, and setting these boundaries, it's not in a way to push others away, but it's really just to protect our own energy, in a way that we can still, reset, recharge, and have enough to give to others. So I would say, especially for, parents out there, but it's also for children. I mean, kids are working so hard out there, with school, like they're putting all their effort in. And my kids really, it was so hard doing Zoom school for a year. Let me tell you, it was just, California has been so strict with all the COVID stuff. And I'm not saying, good, bad, or the otherwise, just for the kids, it was really hard. So they had to learn also to create these boundaries. Now many of these people who are just getting into spirituality, or say that they're just getting these signs, or maybe they had a vision of a loved one that passed over. How do you recommend to them, for them to create boundaries for themselves so that they're, they feel safe?
Beautiful question. As you were saying that, I got a clairvoyant going on, and I had an image of somebody putting their feet in the deep end of the pool, where you start, you just balance yourself to go up, and you put your feet in and you dip it in. That to me is what someone starting with spirituality is like. You put it on terms that you're comfortable with. You don't overdo it. You don't overanalyze it. You put your toe in the water a little bit with it to get comfortable with it, and then you gradualize from there. You gradualize from there. And the next thing you know, like, I started out as even though I know I have a psychic ability, but what I do is I tell people everyone's got this. Like, there's nothing I have that's special. It's just that I'm more in tune. It's like, if I went to the gym for 20 years and I was a bodybuilder right now and I was all hulked out, sure, you could see what my efforts in that particular aspect of things happened. But I just did a lot of spiritual work, and I just had a lot of opportunities, and I expanded my abilities just through life experience. And so,
I love that.
all the reasons that I started out on Groupon. I started out on Groupon with a pseudonym because I didn't want my legal stuff to get affected. So after hours, my day job ended as a lawyer. I'd have people meet me downstairs. I'd bring them up in my conference room, and I'd give readings that way.
I love it.
So
I love that.
It's a good way. You get online reviews, and you get the experience. And I practiced on those experiences and grew from it, and realized that this isn't something you have to get stressed about or nervous. Anyone who's an aspiring psychic, don't get nervous. It's like breathing. It's like sleeping.
Breathing. Yeah, remind yourself you can do it.
Just consider you're plugging into the universe. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. So, and there's so many people, because I agree. I think that, everybody has our own gifts, our Claire's gifts. So,
yes.
Whether it's through our vision or through hearing or through sense, like, when you get those goosebumps, or,
yes.
Just an intuitive knowing is another one that's like really strong. But people doubt this. Again, they're just like, no, it's not real. It can't be. I'm making all these excuses for them. How would you guide them to, stop doing that? Like, start trusting yourself. And, when you see like loved ones that have crossed over, or maybe they're not even loved ones. I mean, what would you say about, okay, so what's the difference then, let's say, between ghosts and angels? Where would you see like the difference here?
I think for the way I look at it, I always dwell on the light. I dwell on the bright side of things. And I think you're probably the same way. So for me, angels are just our loved ones and our spirits that are protective, and unconditional love that connects us all in the universe. That's the message I've had from that near-death experience I had when I was under anesthesia. Like, the garden I went to was filled with unconditional love. If you look outside the window with your normal eyes, it's like black and white TV. This experience was popping so vividly. I call it 8K. 8,000K or whatever. It was so much, everything was so real and so broad, but I felt the love from everything emanated, and I knew everything was interconnected. So for anyone doubting that there's, an afterlife, for example, death is like falling asleep on the couch while watching TV. Everyone's done that the last 2 years. We all watch TV programs and we fall asleep on the couch. That's what death is like. That's what people on the other side tell me. They tell me that they have a greeter, a loved one, like my grandfather, who would greet us on the other side to orientate us. And then they can communicate with us. We're like their reality show. They can watch us. I've had in readings where people come in and tell the loved one that's in front of me, you just painted this room blue, you painted that room, you did all these home improvement projects and you had issues with your car. You should probably check the air in the tires. Like try to, like something my grandfather would say to me. And that's what they come through, and they talk very matter of fact most of the time. You see it on TV with the Long Island Medium or Tyler, and all these various ones, these awesome talents.
So where are they then? So if this is like, I mean, is it like another dimension? Is this just like a kind of higher vibration of energy? And so what's time like for them?
It doesn't exist,
or have they even talked to you?
Time doesn't exist on the other side. They are more concerned about us when they come through. They're not even focused on them because they're fine. I've had people come through in suicides. I've had people who've gotten murdered, got hit by a train. I had someone come in and talk to me. One of my Groupon readings, the guy came and I sat across from the brother. And I was like, oh, he's like, what do you pick up on my brother? His name's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'll say Henry, just make up a name, protect the innocent. And I was like, okay. And he's like, what do you pick up on him? And I'm like, he's walking down a dark road. And then he's like with pebbles in his shoe and he's looking down and he got hit from behind. He didn't suffer and he didn't try to kill himself. They thought he purposely went in front of the train. No, he wasn't paying attention. He was upset about something in deep thought. We all get like that. We go for walks. And instead of paying attention, the tracks were dark and it was all filled with rocks. And he got hit by the back, from the back of the head by a train and died. But he wanted to let his brother know it's not about me dying. It's about the fact that you need to get in touch with your nephew, my son. You need to be nicer to my wife, and you need to take these steps in your life to improve yourself. Don't get that extra tattoo you want to get and get your haircut. He was telling him all these things like a big brother to a little brother. And, when you can get involved, you feel the energy of it. That's what makes my job, I wouldn't say job. That's what makes my experience really exciting, that I would be more wanting to do this than my traditional, 9-to-5 job or 9-to-9.
Absolutely. Well, what do your colleagues think about this now? Because now they must know, right? You've got several podcasts going. You're kind of not a secret on Groupon anymore.
Or social media or online. Yeah. It's interesting. Sometimes you'll get a negative response from people you don't expect. Like they don't know what to make of it. They don't understand what I'm trying to do. Or I'll have other people who support me, but they don't know how to support me. So I just kind of give everyone their own space. And I'm just here doing my thing. Like if anyone else started their own company or something, like this is what I want to do. This is where I spend my passion. This is why I get excited talking about it all the time.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I know. I feel the same. It's like, okay, so I'm a hippie. It's fine. It's, I always say, my kids say, oh, Mom, you're such a hippie. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's all right. So it's kind of sorry?
My mom went to Woodstock, the original Woodstock.
I was probably there. I'm sure I was there. I must have been there because I always, since from a young age, had such an incredible draw towards all of that music. And Janis Joplin was like, like one of those like idols when I was a kid. Not that she was actually a very good idol to have. I mean, she died from drugs and had kind of a sad ending there. But, there was definitely that strong connection. So for those that have crossed over, and like you said, so time doesn't exist, which really does time exist anyway? I mean, we kind of put it into this linear train of like, oh, well, back then, but when was back then? Because think about it, how many times you go back into your train of thought and things are so present in your mind. It's like, we'll say, oh God, it feels like that just happened yesterday. Maybe it did. Like, why do we have this thing with linear time? So for those that have crossed over and they're in this, higher vibrational state, what do you think of, the idea of coming back and renewing with a new lifetime? And then what happens to that communication with a loved one once they've, come back to.
Sometimes they'll come back into your life. I'm going to give you an example. My grandfather died on August 12, 2004. My nephew was born on August 12, 2004, several years later.
Amazing.
And so we make a joke about it and we say my grandfather came back and he's, in essence, my grandfather on the spiritual side, but there's connections. Plus my address is 812. So 812 has been a special number for me between those three circumstances. And amazing. So how I look at everything, it's all interconnected. I believe heavily in synchronicity. I feel like it's a law of nature like gravity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those numbers and those shapes, and it's all part of nature. And if you really start looking into it, there's so much in common with all of them. The numbers, everything, the sounds, even the frequencies, right? All of it is connected. So now I know I'm going to get like technical here, but if if he's come back and he's, reliving now this life as your nephew, do you still have visions of him? Do you still have communication with
I've had
him
dreams.
since time doesn't exist, right? So
I feel like
it's
energy is
interesting how
infinite.
that can work, right?
Put it this way, I don't know all the answers to that, but I'll tell you that I know energy is infinite. I know love's infinite, and I feel like they're like a Wi-Fi signal to us. Just because we can't pick up on them ourselves, they're there. And if you had a phone in the 1980s, you wouldn't have a Wi-Fi signal to connect to. So our technology hasn't caught up with our spirituality yet. I believe in the future, 20, 30 years from now, there's going to be something that gets invented that can track the energy leaving the body at the time of death to, the next place. But I don't know if they'll track it completely, but there's going to be some beginning steps for us.
I absolutely love that idea. I vote yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, 100%. Let's do it. That would be amazing and really change the way science looks at, life and death, right? And
Absolutely.
are we really gone because, for those of us in the spiritual world, of course, we don't believe we're really gone. Like, no, of course they're there. I mean, I've had visions of loved ones passed over myself, which I never would have believed, right? Beforehand, like I believed that they were there, but it's kind of this seeing is believing thing. And I
You
mean, I've
experience it
seen
yourself. I
when
mean,
you experience it yourself, it's really, you can't unsee it. Like there's no going back. It's like once you've seen that, there's no going back. Most of mine have been in very like kind of more traumatic, where I'm like in the hospital dying from typhus, or I rolled over in a car, or
prior life,
these kind of things. Sorry?
your prior lives you pick up on that you sense you feel.
No, like my past loved ones, they'll
Okay.
come through, like in these times of trauma for me in my lifetime. I've had some pretty interesting, I can't just be normal, right? So I have to have
What
like
is
some,
normal though? We are
I
normal.
mean, what is normal? What is
We
normal
are
anyway?
normal. It's the rest of the world's got to catch up to the way we look at things, is how I see it.
I love it. I love it. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think you have to have, a near death experience, like I've had to be able to connect with loved ones. And like you said, just those dreams, paying attention to those dreams. Our dreams are so incredible because so much of our subconscious lives in our dreams, right? Or things
100%.
that we've repressed, repressed emotions, repressed fears, all these things, they'll come through in their dreams. At one point, I had a lot of things going on, and I had this dream. I was in the ocean, and I had just been pulled, like sucked down, but it was so vivid, like so real. It woke me up. Like I woke up not being able to breathe. And oh, I'm sorry, no, at the last minute I managed to
You just get air right at the last minute.
my legs turned into a mermaid tail, and I shot up, and as soon as I broke water to take a breath, I woke up, like in real life. It was wild. And I thought, okay, for sure, Athena, you're crazy. Like, what's going on? But it was amazing because then I was able to see, like, look, yeah, I've got all of these things happening that are, big and are coming on as emotionally overwhelming. So I was able to actually go in there and really kind of look at the meanings of these from a different perspective. And when we're able to do that with dreams with loved ones,
Huge.
it's trust that vision, because it's not for nothing. They're there bringing you this message. And sometimes pay attention to, what's happening in that dream. What are they trying to tell you about or guide you on, right? When you
I had
say,
a physical manifestation from one of my dreams with my grandfather. 3 years after he died, my grandmother had passed, and I was depressed that I didn't have a card from them anymore, like a birthday card. I fell asleep on the night of my
oh,
birthday. My grandfather comes in the dream and says, "Son, I love you. When you get up, go clean your closet out." And I just moved there 4 months earlier, this place, because I was traveling for work for hurricane stuff. So
yes.
I get up at 2 a.m. on my birthday, look at the ceiling, say, "Grandpa, I love you. Thank you." I went into the closet and he led me through all my mess of all these boxes to my college trunk. And I had just thought before I went to sleep, I wish I had a card from them, their last card. I am so disorganized in my personal life. So for me to find the birthday card of the last one they sent me when he was alive 5 years earlier, and I pulled it from the top of that trunk and I looked at it, I broke down in tears of gratitude. And I hold on to that thing every single like moment in my life. It's a card with 2 horses, but it's the meaning of the fact that I had this thought, right? Thoughts are things. And I was
Yes.
sad and I lamented, went to sleep. And then my grandfather, poof, guided me through my mess to find this card that I cherish.
And you were asking for.
And I was
See,
asking,
it's
I
like
consider that the best birthday gift
and
of my
you
life.
received that is so, and they weren't even here.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
technically,
beautiful.
that's amazing. That's so amazing. I mean, talking about trusting the signs. I mean, these are not just
It's like billboards for me, you know,
coincidences.
you can't ignore those things.
You can't ignore
You
those
can't
things.
explain it either. You
Absolutely.
just have to accept it.
Yes.
Trust
No,
me.
I so agree. And I so agree with the idea that we come back and we live these lessons and again and help support the ones that we left behind, like when they need guidance, because they kind of like already know, right? They're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, we went through this life. We know what's going on. Relax, everything's gonna be fine. Here, let me help you with, whatever it is you're worrying about. And then we get to come back and do it again, as I believe. And we
This
continue
is
to
the
learn.
classroom. This is our
It
classroom.
is. I mean, life is it's a journey. It's a lesson. And I mean, you notice in life that, if we don't learn the lesson, it just keeps coming up in different ways, in different situations in our life, different moments. When I'm talking with clients, it's like, oh, this keeps happening to me and I can't figure it out. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at, what we're doing and how we can break that cycle because, you know, yes, we're meant to learn, but you want to move on to the next lesson, right? It's
Exactly.
like,
Don't get
I
stuck
want
in
the
one
next class.
spot.
I'm done with this class. I want the next one. Absolutely. So that also brings me to your very special, gift. We'll say your superpower. So you list, in your bio and in your information, everything, anywhere you look for Jason Zuk, you talk about how letting go and forgiveness are your superpower.
Powerful.
Tell us about this and how that can work for others that are, stuck in the lesson, the
Thank
present
you. I
lesson.
love that question. Yeah, my dad's a perfect example. I came from a single parent family in the 70s, early 80s. My dad had a serious alcohol issue and drug issue, and I never had a relationship with him. And so I always had like a grudge in a way, but didn't realize it. And then he passed away in 2012. And when he died, I kept getting dreams from my dad. And my dad and I hadn't talked in 30 years. And he came in my dreams and he's like, I want forgiveness. I want forgiveness. I'm so sorry. And at the time, I wasn't ready for it. It took me 5 years, and it was during COVID that I finally meditated deeply and I realized I need to forgive and I need to let go. And the best analogy I'll give is if you have a lot of anger, negativity, or if you hold on to something you can let go of and forgive and have gratitude, it's like carrying 10 bags of luggage through the airport. Nobody wants to do that. So by letting go, you're actually surrendering yourself in better ways. The universe helps you. Long story short, I forgave my dad. He came to me in a dream during COVID. I said, Dad, I forgive you. I love you. And I only have one picture of my dad with me and my brother and my mom in it when my brother had communion. I was a little kid, little one. And so I have that picture. I framed it. I have it in my main room. I look at it. I meditate on it. I think of my dad all the time. I feel his energy. He pops in dreams. I reconnected with his side of the family. His sister just passed in November, and I have a relationship with them. And it's a very important thing for me. So that is one lesson. And I've done that with everyone from my past. If I don't forgive them in sense of being in person, I forgive them in spirit, which is our higher selves. And by doing that, you let go of the ownership of any negativity and you free yourself up. You raise your vibes.
You raise your vibes. And now look, that premonition of you being alone is just not the case anymore. Now you
No.
have that family around you
No.
again. And that's so beautiful and so
Thank you.
powerful because right, I mean, the only ones we're hurting are ourselves, right? It's
Exactly.
like punishing ourselves and it's you can't change the past, but you can let go of that emotional attachment that we harbor. And I think you're so
Exactly.
right that
You can't.
that forgiveness is really what helps us get there.
And when people
I
ask
love
me, how do
that.
I forgive? I'll say, when you get in the car, do you drive looking through the rearview mirror the whole time? No, you don't look back. You look forward. If you look forward,
Right.
and I tested this for myself during the pandemic. If I wake up and I look ahead, I'm not depressed. But if I look back, it's hard from what we've all been through. So I always train myself to focus forward.
Yes,
and move
forward, one step forward at a time, right? Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. And just being also in that present moment, where we are and thankful for what we have around us and, ourselves, our health, our,
Exactly.
the people that we have that love us and, that all that we've grown and that we've learned. And I always say, like, even those hard moments, those lessons, even the lessons are blessings, because it
100%.
creates such an incredible amount of growth for us. And even though growing pains can sometimes be that's why they're called growing pains.
Yes.
But they're also wonderful because we grow stronger and we learn about ourselves and how our relationships are with other people. So it's so important. I love that you do this. It's amazing. And everybody out there needs to try that too, 100%. So now, Jason, for your daily routine, I mean, I know you've got a lot going on. You're a lawyer still, which is just amazing. And then you run a couple different podcasts now. You're seeing clients for psychic mediumship and psychic readings. It's a lot, right? So instead of getting overwhelmed, you must have something that you do, and is it, I guess I should ask, is it a morning ritual or something that you do that you can do in the morning that just really shifts your day into the positive, so that whatever comes your way, whatever madness, you're already starting, elevating high here.
If somebody monitored me or watched me for a day, they'd see my manifestation board in my room that I meditate on. I write the very meaningful things on that board. It's a 6-foot board, and then I have another 3-foot board under that. They're just dry erase boards, and I keep those focused. And a lot of everything's always positive and talk about healing and positivity. And anything I focus my energy on through that board, it seems somehow happens. The universe rewards through manifestation. So that's one of my secrets, is manifesting. I love it. I go for walks, listen to music, go for walks. I meditate with crystals. I got enough of those to go around.
Yes, I have all mine here too.
I also will tell you that anytime I talk about spirituality, it elevates my vibe too, raises my vibe. So there are various things like that I get to do. And this year has just been, aside from having COVID, the good news that pops in all the time, it's like one positive thing after another, and it elevates me, And so I would say that's part of my routine, is just staying, you'll have a few moments where you'll have sadness, or you'll feel, because everything we're going through right now. I was watching coverage about Ukraine. It depresses me, but then I'll disconnect. I'll meditate. I'll talk to someone who needs to be talking with, or I'll act goofy. Whatever it is, we can nourish our inner children. I try to do that enough sometimes.
Yes, so, play is such a gift, isn't it? Yeah, letting go of all that serious adult stuff. Let's remember what it's like to have fun. I love that. Because yes, there's too much seriousness in the world all the time, right? We need to kind of liven up, raise our vibes, come and be childlike again. It's such a gift. And, Jason, it has been such a gift to share energy with you
here today. Mine.
Oh my gosh. No, the pleasure is all mine. Yes. No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have raised my vibes. I am so grateful.
You're a gift to us, and we appreciate you.
I love you. Thank you. Well, thank you for helping us raise the vibes for those, far, near, everywhere in between, and help maybe that reaching that one person that needed to hear a message from you today. I'm so grateful that we were able to have you on here. We are all connected, and when you vibe higher, everyone around you will too. So I love that we can raise the vibes together.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure, and I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. We'll stay on for just a moment. I love to finish with a Reiki Reiju blessing, and I would love for you to enjoy as well. And you can learn more about how Reiki can create positive changes for your life at crystalreikihealer.com. And to begin with our Reiki Reiju blessing, this sacred blessing is for your highest good. So whether you're in the car or you're at home, or simply with your intention to accept this positive healing vibration, please go ahead and just rest easy and enjoy. And we're going to begin by just allowing to sweep off any and all negativity from your aura, and bringing that divine healing light up through your crown, shining with the gift of love, and to your mind's eye, channeling that beautiful energy of love, releasing any stresses or worries. And over your ears, that everything you hear be from a place of love. And shining that beautiful healing energy of Reiki through your third eye, shining its beautiful light that you find clarity, peace of mind, and rest at ease. And over your mouth, that everything you say be from a place of love. And to your throat, that everything you communicate, everything you speak, you hear, you see, be from a place of love. And over your heart center, that your heart fills with the beautiful energy of Reiki and love, that it shines out through your whole being, out into the world, raising our vibration. And to your hands, that everything you touch for the rest of the day or the evening and tomorrow will be from a place of love. And bringing that energy down from up through your feet, your legs, your chakras, all the way up through your being, and shining that beautiful light, letting it rain down over your spirit. You may bring your hands back to Gasao, as we call in Reiki, or prayer position, as many of us know. And just take a moment for gratitude. Gratitude for this Reiki blessing, and gratitude for yourself for allowing you to have a moment of peace and to receive love. And then whenever you are ready, after the show, please go ahead and have some cool water to assist grounding whenever you are ready. I am your host and crystal Reiki healer, Athena Bahri, and I'm so grateful to have shared energy together today with the wonderful support of our sponsor, Westwood Clinic. Living without pain is their gift to you. Join me next week here on KP Media TV for another episode of Raise Your Vibes. Wishing you all so much love, healing, and many blessings. We would love to feature your brands and products on our show, Raise Your Vibes. Please contact info@raiseyourvibestv.com for sponsorship opportunities to raise awareness to your brand. Disclaimer: Reiki and other forms of energy healing shared on the show are meant to be supplementary healing practices. Always contact your medical licensed professional for questions or concerns regarding your physical, emotional, and mental health. Thank you.